Welcome to Follow That Food, the show that takes you around the world to find the beginning, middle, and end of the world's best food stories. On this edition, it's a pain to pop, but not just any flavored fizz. We're on the road for the soda that says America, root beer, which is why we're headed for the land of Lincoln to see what they're drinking. A sarsaparilla thriller that the soda savvy savor from coast to coast. But our homage to a beverage is more than just froth. Our distillate with dioxide takes us from handmade to sauteed, still to grill, and refreshing to salad dressing. So shine up a Chevy, pop the top, and pour out a cold one as we follow that root beer. Ah, love it. Hello, I'm Gordon Elliott, and welcome to Philadelphia, the birthplace of root beer. It was here in 1866 that Charles Hires first put together a wonderful concoction of vanilla beans, sassafras, and 25 other ingredients. And in 1876, at the Philadelphia Centenary Convention, the world went crazy for the stuff.
Root beer originates in the United States. It's a true American drink. That kick, that special herbal flavor is something that we Americans have been drinking since way before we can remember, and it really links us together as a nation.
And it was here in Chicago that root beer really took off. You see, this was a town that loved its suds, but when Prohibition stopped the serving of alcoholic beverages in the 20s, savvy marketers thought, we'll give them root beer, and Illinois fell in love with the stuff. So much so that today it's the home of one of the finest root beers ever made in this land.
Cool Mountain sodas may only be 5 years old, but they've already become the favorite of fizz fanatics by recreating a flavor thought gone with the drive-in movie. Just ask Bill Decker, whose lust for the taste of the past forced him to found the company.
What were you doing before you made root beer?
I was an electrician.
Now that doesn't really lead naturally into root beer consumption.
Absolutely not.
Why?
Well, childhood memories of going into the local pop shops and seeing stacks and stacks of glass bottles of many different flavors.
You mean when you went looking for the root beer, you remembered as a kid, you couldn't find it?
No, you couldn't find it.
But turning out a soft drink for the discerning demands more than nostalgia, because
you can go get the vanilla oil and the honey and the orange oil and the lemon oil, even the sugar and the licorice. But unless you've got what Bill Peters has, which is over a century of family experience in making root beer, you just can't get that flavor. Is this recipe a secret, Bill?
Yes, it is a secret, but there are some basic ingredients that are in all root beers.
what do you start with?
A little bit of wintergreen because that's the base of the product.
Just a tiny smidgen, 2 drops.
2 drops.
Ooh.
Cinnamon,
That's cinnamon oil.
also known as cassia. Nutmeg,
All right.
just even less nutmeg.
You know, you can go crazy, Bill.
Yeah, well, a little bit of orange oil.
See, that's it. That's the magic ingredient.
All root beer has to have a little vanilla. Makes it creamy. Quite a bit of that in there.
Quite a bit. Oh, look,
Quite
there
a
it
bit.
is. Now you got the color.
It certainly does give it some color, and some people that don't want a lot of color.
Now it's smelling like root beer.
There you go.
What happens if I taste this?
Don't taste that. It is very strong. That amount right there would probably make about 5 to 10 gallons of finished product.
Holy moly. But how do you turn this beaker of botanicals into the beverage that makes the cola kings cringe?
Now this is why these guys say their root beer is the best, because they make it by hand in small batches. Small batches means control. Control means exact flavoring. In fact, this is the 9th recipe, the best recipe, and they did it by just changing things a tiny little bit, which in root beer is a lot. Woo! That smells like a big glass of root beer.
But our lovely bubbly is not done yet. To give it the heft of yesteryear's clinking classics, our microbrewed marvel comes only in glass bottles.
Our freshly bottled brown bubbly friend is only one in a long line of root beers. In fact, there are over 2,000 different flavor combinations that have been created since it was first invented. But we're going to follow this particular root beer to whoever chooses to use it in food flavorings that are going to be fantastic.
And where better to begin our ovation to carbonation than the city that created it, Chicago. And at the hotel where, right beneath that monolith to American commerce, the 1,127-foot John Hancock Center, we enjoy an all-American breakfast of pumpkin pancakes and sassafras syrup.
So my friend George Bombara says, have a root beer at the Ritz-Carlton. It'll be a real relaxation. I say, George, what a terrific treat. But you're going to do something a little different. It's not going to go in a glass.
A little bit different. We're not going to drink it.
Right.
We're going to take the root beer and what we're going to do first is reduce it by 1/6 of the volume. So it'll be a nice concentrated, rich flavor.
Look at that. That is a thick,
You see the difference?
syrupy residue. And now what do you do with that?
We're going to let this sit on the side for a minute and we're going to do our batter here for our pumpkin pancakes.
Why did you want to put the flavors of pumpkin with root beer?
The dark, rich flavors of the sassafras and the birch bark and the flavors in the root beer go great with the pumpkin flavors. And what we're going to do is just get everything mixed up. Now we're going to add some flour, sugar. Give it a little splash of root beer. Looks like I need a little bit more. Perfect.
There you go, hey?
There we go.
You were just inspired then, George, weren't you? You said, why not put root beer in the batter mix? I'm here to help.
You can see this is a nice thick batter. We're ready to make the pancakes.
Now, my grandmother told me always wait for the bubbles to come through. Is that right?
That's correct.
Oh, George, they're perfect. Discs of delight.
We're going to make our little caramel to caramelize our banana with.
So you got banana, pumpkins, and root beer.
We're going to add our bananas to it. Splash of root beer here,
Root beer,
Gordon.
certainly,
Let's
sir.
do that. Beautiful.
This is the root beer reduction, the star of the show. So this is instead of a maple syrup.
It's a good concentration of sugar, which allows it to reduce to this nice consistency. Top off with a little cinnamon whipped cream.
That is saying, eat me. How do we attack this root beer rendezvous?
I'm going to try the banana here.
Okay, I'm going to go for the root beer syrup and a little cream. That's great.
That's a fun morning dish.
I'm going to try a little more of that root beer. That's great. With the pumpkin and the root beer.
They go well together.
Thank you, George.
Thank you.
You've opened up my mind. And isn't that what life's all about?
Coming up on Follow That Food, our Chicago soda sojourn takes us to the psychedelic hangout of the city's sweet-toothed sophisticates, sugar. Then we set sail for the South Pacific and the eatery with scenery.
So spin with us as we spin around the world, following that root beer.
Welcome back to Follow That Root Beer. We're following Chicago's sarsaparilla sensation from gassy to classy.
It was actually the pharmacist in America who started the soda industry. They took the cue from the Native Americans who would drink natural mineral waters. They added flavorings thinking it would be a medicinal support. And the result was a flavored, bubbly water that everybody enjoyed. Now, it's a whole new level of art and dining, as you'll see here in Chicago, where sugar is all the rage.
This candy-coated coterie lures Chicago's chicest lovers of the sweet life, both with its decadent decor and desserts that even the hippest crowds find irresistible.
I'm going to make root beer gelée with vanilla panna cotta and root beer granite.
So you start with a jelly root beer on the bottom of the glass.
That's correct.
Oh my goodness, what is that?
That's gelatin.
That's the gelatin that ate Chicago.
We're going to add that to our root beer, stir it up, dissolve the gelatin. So we just want to pour a little bit of that in the bottom of each cup.
It's that simple.
And then we're going to put it in the cooler till it's set, 15, 20 minutes.
Christine, is it ready?
I believe so.
Oh, it is.
All right.
Okay, ready for your panna cotta?
Panna cotta translates to cooked cream. So it's basically just cream, a little bit of sugar, and we're going to add some fresh vanilla bean here.
What kind of vanilla bean do you use?
Tahitian, only the best.
More gelatin.
More gelatin.
Now, why did you choose these flavors to go with the root beer?
It's a twist on the root beer float. Vanilla ice cream usually with root beer, so I thought instead of ice cream we'd have panna cotta. We're gonna go ahead and add this to our already set root beer jelly. Then we're gonna put that in the cooler until that's set.
What is this?
This is root beer granite. It is a pan, pour root beer in it, put it in the freezer, and once it's frozen, you just scrape it with a fork, and you have granite.
To give your root beer and panna cotta jello surprise, sort of a frizzy top. We get a little of everything? Is that the idea? Okay, there it all is. Oh, it's lovely. It's creamy. Lots of flavor. Not too sweet. Doesn't kill you with the sugar. Christine, thank you. But we're going to see if our guys in the 50th state of Hawaii at the wonderful resort of Princeville can come up with something equally interesting on the savory side. That's next as we follow our root beer.
But first, it's time for a pop quiz. What's the difference between birch beer, sarsaparilla, and root beer?
It's confusing, isn't it? They're almost exactly the same thing. Root beer is kind of a catch-all phrase for any sweet beverage that's brewed with sarsaparilla, bark from the birch tree, or sassafras. Now, birch beer is made specifically from the birch bark, and sarsaparilla is made specifically from the sarsaparilla shrub. So, sarsaparilla and birch beer are types of root beer.
Okay.
Get it?
Got it.
Okay.
Well, from the land of Illinois to the land of poi, we set grass skirts a-shaking as we follow that root beer to Hawaii.
Where in this tropical melting pot of Pacific cuisine, East meets West, and sweet and savory have been island staples since the Polynesians first came to these shores in 300 AD. Today at the Princeville Resort, that tradition gets its newest twist as Chef Todd Oldham pairs root beer with the most luscious of fishes, hamachi, Japanese yellowtail.
Now, why have you mixed the flavors of root beer with yellow tuna?
When I think sassafras, I think sweet but warm flavors. You know, we've got ginger, we've got hoisin, which has some sweet potato in it, and we're going to tie that together with a little bit of acid, which is with this little pickled banana flower here.
Todd begins his root beer repast with the vinaigrette, combining shallots, hoisin, white balsamic vinegar, and mirin, Japanese rice wine. To this he pours in a quarter cup of our famous fizzy flavoring, slowly drizzles in olive and peanut oil, and whisks to bind the dressing.
Okay.
Oh, that's yummy.
Oh, it is. It's tasty.
Oh,
You
that's
can
a
taste-
full mouth of flavor.
Correct.
This gaseous garnish done, Todd starts the yellowtail.
We're going to let this brown a little while.
What do you like most about cooking in Hawaii?
Oh, it's just everything is just incredibly fresh. That was one of the reasons why I came here. We have a 12-month growing season.
And this is what you see outside of your window when you're working?
Every day.
Down there, somebody told me that's where they filmed South Pacific.
That is Bali Hai right there.
But we digress. Our decadent dinner is almost done, so Todd prepares a bed of local greens topped with roasted shiitake mushrooms.
Now it's time for the root beer part. And what I have here are sabunganai. It's Ilocano for banana flower.
Banana flour.
They're a little bitter, that's why we pickle them, but it's a nice balance to the sweetness of the root beer.
This is Hawaii on a fork right here. And the creativity of Todd Oldham, and the majesty of the seas, and a little root beer. It's sweet. It's nice.
Working for you?
Yeah. Goodness, that yellowtail's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's so
It's
rich.
like fish foie gras.
You try the banana flower, you like that?
That's really pleasant.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Todd, you live up to your view.
Thank you. Thank
right
you very
here,
much.
South Pacific, the paradise of some enchanted evenings, some enchanted dinners. Todd will create for you, but we've got more movement to make as we follow root beer's path.
When we return on Follow That Food, it's back to the mainland for the roadside brew that you can chew. Then crank up the barbie. Our cool mountain is going to be smoking, thanks to a legend from Hoboken. Welcome back to Follow That Root Beer. We followed this thirst quencher from makers to breakers. But while this island paradise is a cornucopia of culinary excellence, it's time to turn up the heat on our teetotalers tonic and get home to the Hudson Valley, where the East Coast's Scoville scale sorcerer, Hoboken Eddie, mixes fizz with fire. But before we put our taste buds to the flames, we've got just a moment to cool our heels back in Pennsylvania, where,
As the popularity of root beer spread,
companies beginning in the 1920s with A&W realized that because of the automobile, Americans now had the means to travel beyond their nearest drugstore. And what better way to entice them than an icy mug of root beer?
roadside stands made it their specialty drink. Melissa, what is it you serve here today to people in their cars?
This is a black and white milkshake, this is a black kale, and this is just our regular root beer.
This is Weber's root beer, huh?
Yeah,
It's yummy.
yeah, I know, it's my favorite.
It's creamy. And this is your black cow. Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah.
But as much as I'd love to root for the hometown brew, we need to follow our premium pop north to the Hudson Valley, where griddle guru Hoboken Eddie creates his mouth-watering, tongue-torturing, all-natural homegrown sauce, and where heat meets sweet with root beer glazed spice chicken.
Hoboken Eddie, you've had the chicken marinating in root beer?
I marinated it with root beer, a little allspice, a little ginger, some scallion from the garden.
How does that affect the flavor?
When you put it on the grill, it'll give it a nice caramelization, good color.
What did you just do?
I give a little flash cooking to it, and then this way it won't stick to the grill.
See, when I've been in the South, I've tasted Coca-Cola ham.
If you use the Coca-Cola, it has a sugar content in it that you're looking for, and it'll give the ham a nice glaze.
Is this the same kind of concept, using a root beer?
That's the root beer right there. I cooked it down, reducing it by at least half.
Root beer glaze.
You see how nice it candies up.
Where's the legend of Hoboken Eddie start?
Originally, I had done the street fairs there, and I used to make my sauces in mason jars, but nobody wanted to carry them. So I put them in the hip flask, and people could put them in their back pockets and walk through the street fair and still have their hands open.
It fits perfectly into my back pocket.
Close that, let it finish up.
Once seared to perfection, Eddie stokes up the flavor with a dash of his cauterizing condiment.
So you reckon the sweetness of this root beer can balance with the punchiness of your mean green habanero-powered hot sauce, huh?
Yes.
I'm getting the sweet. Oh my God, the hot. Oh, it's
Right,
good.
right?
It's not biting. It's just it's a nice, exciting journey.
It's complimentary hot.
You know what you need? A really good cold beer. Maybe even a root beer.
In a moment on Follow That Food, our soda sovereign summons us to the Prince of Hamburgers, where even the king came for a gulp of this frothy broth, and where, if the buns are as big as a plate, we must be in the Lone Star State.
Follow that root beer.
Welcome back to Follow That Root Beer. We followed America's foamy favorite across the country, from icy to spicy. But to conclude our evocation of effervescence, we have to hit the road, because to experience root beer's golden age, the 1950s, we have to go to a drive-in.
And this is the secret to one of the most successful drive-in restaurants in the country. See, McDonald's started in 1956. The Prince of Hamburgers started in 1927. So for 75 years or more, this has been the secret behind its success.
Why else would the king himself, Elvis Presley, stop in this Dallas landmark?
I have it documented. A car hop of ours, her name was Vera Gann, waited on Elvis Presley.
And what did he like to eat?
Cheeseburger and root beer.
But it's not just the frosted mugs of foaming root beer that makes the Prince of Hamburgers so popular. Their signature dish is their root beer marinated chicken sandwich.
First, we use a 5-ounce butterfly cut chicken breast fillet. We'll take some olive oil, pour it on here. We have a wine, white
wine?
table wine.
No expense is spared here.
No expense is spared.
Right.
Roasted garlic. Then I put some chopped sweet yellow onion.
Sweet yellow Texas onions.
Here, the main ingredient, root beer.
Once well seasoned and mixed, our drive-in delicacy marinates overnight.
Give it a whirl.
Woo! That's got some kick in it.
How about them aromatics?
Hey? You know it's going to be good.
Just put a couple on the grill. Now this is a quick cook here.
A quick flip, a frosted mug, and it's time to eat.
I got the world in my hands right now, Ron. Who'd have think one man could be so lucky? A chilled mug of root beer and a chicken root beer burger. Would you join me? Here's to you.
And to you.
The Prince of Hamburgers, the King of Rock and Roll. And there you are, the Duke of Dallas, Ron.
Thank you.
It's good.
Sweet like, isn't it?
It is.
Let's have that root beer bring that out.
Apart from the great food you find here at the Prince of Hamburgers, there's another reason we came here to your wonderful establishment, Ron. And that's because Dallas was one of the first places in America to have a drive-in eating establishment. And what goes with great drive-through? Great beverages. And what's more American than root beer?
No,
Nothing.
Nothing.
Thank you, ladies, and I hope you'll all join us again next time on Follow That Food. Cheers. Love it.